Welcome to the Authentic Self Revolution. I'm Carly, your guide on this journey to genuine living and the real wealth of freedom and fulfillment. In a world that just loves to tell us who we should be, we're here to remember who we truly are. We're here for the questioners, the misfits, and anyone who's ever felt there must be more to life than following the script. Each week, we peel back the layers of shoulds and musts and dive into practical ways to live more authentically. If you're listening only and want to see my face, you can head over to my YouTube channel, Owning Authenticity, where you'll find this podcast along with a treasure trove of other content aimed at uncovering who you truly are. Your authentic self is waiting. So let's dive in. As we continue on in this journey of these social conditioning episodes that are part of this larger Authentic Self Revolution podcast, we're figuring out how, in a practical sense, how to actually be our authentic self. And if you've been following along, I mean, here we are on episode 22, like you see, there are so many different facets of how to bring who you really are even more to life. And also there is a never ending component to this journey of a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. So today's episode, I am sharing 5 strategies for breaking free from social conditioning that will hopefully help you to take your journey a little bit more in the direction of your authentic self. And as I dive into that, the main thing that I want to start with are 2 benefits of recognizing your social conditioning. And that's really what the first 3 episodes in this series were about, is like, where does social conditioning come from? How do we see it? Especially when our normal is so normal to us, it's so obvious that it's hiding in plain sight. So those first 3 episodes hopefully helped you to kind of make the unconscious conscious, become aware in a new way of where your social conditioning is still holding you back. And as we recognize that social conditioning, there are 2 main benefits that come with doing that very important work on this authenticity journey. The first benefit is we can only change what we're aware of. Okay, so if we leave this social conditioning in our unconscious and we never actually become aware of the patterns that we are personally playing out, then we don't gain control over our path. We don't get to make a choice between continuing on with the socially conditioned version of what we're being and that version of ourselves, or this more authentic version. We don't even have a choice if we don't first become aware of what does the program want from us. And like one thing I say to my clients a lot of the times are like, having conflicting beliefs is a really good sign. Okay. Like there's a part of me that wants this and there's a part of me that wants this other thing and I don't know what to do. And I'm like, that's progress. Okay. Like I get really excited when you've got parts that want different things. All right. Because early on in the journey, your whole self is just running on a program and you just want what the program wants. There is no conflict, right? So like that awakening process of like bringing your authentic part more online, now there's a conflict between the program and the authentic self. And that's a step in the right direction. And we can strengthen the authentic self. We can feel into how would it feel to play out the program version? How would it feel to play out the authentic version? And we have a choice. Okay, and every time we choose the authentic version gets a little stronger. Okay, it gets a little bit easier to make that choice. And if you do that over and over and over again, 100 times, 200 times, you've got a brand new default setting. Okay, you've got a habit. You've got like, that's just how I am now, And so this is the beauty of that self-awareness, of becoming aware, is that now we have a choice. We can choose authenticity. Choosing authenticity gets easier and easier the more times we do it. And that's a beautiful thing. And the second benefit of recognizing your social conditioning is that as you make that choice, you are expanding your personal freedom, your inner fulfillment, and your overall life satisfaction. Okay, that's generally what wakes us up to the fact that we're living off the program, is that I don't like my life all that much, or maybe I freaking hate it. Okay, it just depends. Where we all wake up is different for every person, but often we wake up in the dark. If you've ever read The Way of Integrity by Martha Beck, the first stage of the journey of like coming into integrity, and by integrity, she really just means like authenticity is like another word for it. And the first stage of it is you wake up in the dark wood of error. You basically wake up out of like sleepwalking mode, out of like zombie mode. And you're like, what am I even doing? Why am I doing this? I don't like this, and I don't like this, and I don't like this. And I don't even really, it's dark. I really don't even know how to get out of this. But again, even being aware that I don't like this, that's authenticity. Okay. That's meaning that you're starting to wake up out of the program. All right. So being dissatisfied with your life is actually a place you can start, right? Like you're always at the starting point, no matter where you are, of like what comes next. And so as we choose authenticity, as we choose to listen to our own personal guidance system, this inner compass that's trying to bring us home to ourselves, we are filling in that inner emptiness bit by bit by bit with our authentic self. So this is an exciting prospect of like, set yourself free, love your life, feel genuinely full. This is what is like pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, the metaphorical rainbow and the metaphorical pot of gold, because like we already said, this authenticity journey, it never ends. Okay. There's no top end to how good you can feel. There's no limit to how many pots of gold at the end of how many rainbows you can go after, right? So we can get a little bit more full, a little bit more full, a little bit more satisfied with our life until we take our last breath. That's our real freedom. That's the real wealth right there, is loving your life. Okay. Waking up in the morning and being like, I get to be me. I get to go to this work. I get to be around these people, right? I get to have these hobbies. I get to do this creative self-expression. I love this. That's wealth right there. And that's the benefit of recognizing your social conditioning, is that you get to set yourself free to that. Okay. And the rest of this episode, we're going to talk about 5 strategies for breaking free from social conditioning. And before I dive into that, I want to spend just a little bit of time on this concept of freedom, because a lot of times when you value authenticity, you also value freedom. There's like an inner rebel part that just really gets off on this idea of freedom. And I want to talk just a little bit, just again, for food for thought, as far as like freedom is awesome. And I'm not saying don't have that as your value. I actually encourage that to be one of your values if that feels right for you. But there's 2 different kinds of freedom. And this is really important, okay? Because what we're going to talk about are free from social conditioning. And on the other side of that same coin is freedom to be authentic. Freedom to love your life. So the 2 kinds of freedom are freedom from and freedom to. Okay. And a lot of times when we are on our healing journey, we're on our authenticity journey, we're on any kind of journey, really, our mind has a negativity bias where often we will kind of mount an attack against the thing we want to be free from. All right. And like, not saying that's wrong, because that's a phase of the journey. All right. It's like, doing battle against the thing that you don't like. And really what I would invite you to start to like make this turn whenever you're ready is freedom to what? Okay. Like, yes, the thing I want to get away from. Yes. And in this realm of this 3D Earth school, and if you buy into law of attraction, there is no. You can't say no to anything. Anything that you give your attention to gets bigger. So when you're doing battle with the thing you want to be free from, you're actually making that thing bigger in your reality. Not for everyone. Don't put that kind of pressure on yourself. Just for you. You're just making it bigger for yourself. And like, that's why I say when you get tired of fighting the thing, you're like, God, this sucks. I hate this. Like, this is the thing I don't want. It just keeps popping up over and over and over again. That's when it's time to face a different direction, to start pointing yourself towards freedom to what? You know, I want to get free from this thing so I can what? And that is actually a really interesting place to be in your journey. And when you start trying to answer that question, you see how it's actually a lot easier to fight the thing you don't like than it is to get really specific and disciplined about making what you want happen, declaring what you want, focusing on it again and again and again and again. Freedom to focus on what you want to build your life into. Okay. And that's a blank slate. And especially earlier on, that can be kind of overwhelming. But that's why I just opened up this contemplation around freedom to what? You know, we're going to break free. Yeah. And then what? What do you want? What is calling to you? And how can you answer that call 1 degree at a time? Okay, so we're going to talk about five strategies to break free. And I would say also that these strategies start to work as well around freedom to do whatever it is that your authentic self is calling for you to do. And we'll kind of use those two sides of the freedom coin as we go through each of these. So the first strategy is start small. All right. Practice your authenticity in small, manageable steps. Okay. A lot of times we have this like instant gratification mindset that's like, I want it all. I want it right now. And if I can't have it all right now, then I'm not going to do anything. It's like, dude, okay, Rome wasn't built in a day, and an authentic life actually gets built over a lifetime. So how could you spend 5 to 10 minutes today? You know, you've got about 1,400 minutes every day. We spend a big chunk of those sleeping. We give another big chunk away to lots of other things. How could you take 5 to 10 of your minutes today and focus in on what is authentic to me? What feels good? What kinds of things do I have in my life that I dread, that I just really don't like, that I have to do that? And start to use some of these other techniques that I'm about to share to start to unravel those things that you really don't like, and to spend 1% more of your time each day, each week, to spend more time on the things that really light you up. So this idea of like 1 degree turns, if you're unfamiliar, this is also something that I learned from Martha Beck, but I'm guessing there's many sources of this out there, because the way she tells it is like, if you imagine an airplane flying from point A to point B, and it takes off and it's pointed towards point B, and let's say it's a 10-hour flight. Every 30 minutes, you turn the plane 1 degree to the right. And then 30 minutes later, you turn the plane 1 degree to the right. And then 30 minutes later, you turn the plane 1 degree to the right. So over a 10-hour flight, you're going to turn the plane 20 degrees. Yeah, you're going to turn the plane 1 degree 20 times. You're going to end up not at point B. Okay, like this teeny little change. You do it again and again and again and again, and give yourself 30 days of that. Give yourself 365 days of that. Give yourself 5 years of that. Your life looks very different. And this is, again, where the thing we're up against with this strategy is this idea of like, no, I need to feel better now. And again, we're back in instant gratification mode. Okay. And like the more we can let go of that, and the more we can say, I don't need to feel better, because that's this like black and white thinking of like, I feel bad or I feel good. And it's like what's available to you in every single moment is to feel 1% better. Is that good enough? Do you want that? Like, are you willing to settle for 1% better right now? And then 1% better tomorrow, and 1% better the next day, and 1% better the day after that. And again, a year, 5 years, 10 years from now, your life will be unrecognizable to you. But if it's not enough, so we're not going to do anything, then nothing changes. And if nothing changes, then nothing changes. And that's the way scarier prospect, at least to me. And it depends on how much you dislike your life at this point. The second strategy is journaling. Okay. And this is like the strategies to break free from social conditioning. And journaling, the reason that it is so powerful is that it cultivates self-awareness. Okay, when we keep things in our mind, we are using a part of our brain that is different when we will either speak something aloud or put it into words and write it down. Okay, so you're engaging a different part of your brain. The other thing about journaling is that then you can see it on the page. And as you try to explain it on the page, you start to see the gaps. You start to see the, wait, what? I think what? Like this, wait. And if you do it every day, and you don't have to, but when you do journaling over an extended period of time, you start to see themes. You start to see the patterns of like, oh, like the social conditioning pattern just like illuminates and pops off the page, because now you've got all of these different journaling sessions where I keep writing about how, whatever it is. Okay. And so journaling is a powerful practice for cultivating your self-awareness through mindfulness and reflection. And mindfulness just means like pay attention to what's going on in your mind. That's it. Like we all exist on a spectrum of mindfulness where we have a natural tendency towards self-awareness or not. And that's that spectrum. It's not like black and white like that. It's like we all kind of live somewhere along that spectrum of like very little self-awareness to a lot of self-awareness, so much self-awareness, we're actually hypercritical of ourselves, And so cultivating your self-awareness and paying attention to what's going on in your inner world and just spending even 5 minutes, like I recommend for my clients who don't journal yet, set your phone timer for 5 minutes. Like literally, that's it, 300 seconds. And just write right now I'm feeling what? I'm not really sure what to write. I didn't really know what to write yesterday. Like you're just doing stream of consciousness. Just dump out whatever's in your mind. And again, you start to see the blocks that are in your way. Like for example, there have been things in my journey where I was so ashamed, embarrassed, etc., guilty, etc., about a certain thing that I couldn't even write it in my journal. Nobody sees my journal. I have total privacy in my journal, and I couldn't even admit these things to myself, And like that's another piece of like journaling can be really helpful for when we want other people to understand us better. This is like one of my core wounds, is like feeling misunderstood and the pain of that. And like we can jump towards like, I want to explain to them who I am. I want them to understand me. And it's fascinating how we skip over the phase, the step of the process of like, explain it to yourself, like tell yourself your truth, and watch how much like medicine that is, just to even spend your own time and attention receiving your truth from yourself. And you can do this through journaling. You could do this through like a voice recorder app on your phone and like press record and say a bunch of stuff and then listen back to it. Often we want to be understood. That's what we're registering as like the want, the need, the desire. But really all you want is self-expression. And that doesn't require anybody to listen to you. You can listen to yourself. You can like close that loop with yourself and give yourself access to self-expression. And so journaling is another way to do that. The third strategy for breaking free from social conditioning is asking why. Why do you want that thing? Why do you think that thing? Why do you choose that thing? Why do you prefer that thing? Why? Just dig. The question why is like a shovel down into your psyche. Okay. And the deeper you'll ask why, and what I would recommend is like, if there's something that, you want and you won't really let yourself want, there's something that you want to say no to and you won't really let yourself say no to it. There's a decision that you are trying to make and you're like, well, I kind of want this and I kind of want this. This is such a golden practice to ask why, especially for like indecision, like I kind of want this one and I kind of want this one. Okay. Why do you want this one? Okay. Because of X. Why do you want X? Because of Y. Why do you want Y? I don't really know. Again, gold. Okay. Like, I don't even really know why I want this thing. And then on the other side, why do you want this other option? Well, because of A. Why do you want A? Because of B. Why do you want B? Because of C and D and E and oh God, F. Like, that one has some authentic energy to it. That option right there does. Versus like, I kind of want this thing, but when I dig down into why I want it, I don't really even know why I want it. You were programmed to want it. The program wants that one. Your authentic self wants the one where like you can sink down into a pocket of energy around that option. Like when we're in indecision, often all that is like the program and your authentic self are sparring. They're headed off in this back and forth, and it's a moment of getting to get clear on which one's your authentic self, which one's the program, and you get to choose. There is no right answer. There's just what's right for you in this moment, and it may be to follow your authentic self. Maybe. You'll know in the moment which one is right. And this question of asking why, it helps you to challenge your ingrained beliefs and question societal norms, right? Because if you say like, well, why do I want this thing? And you're like, well, I should blah, 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 blah. Again, that's the program talking versus like, I want this. I've seen this in my mind. I get so excited when I blah, blah, like there's authenticity talking. You can like start to feel the difference when you start to ask why, right? And not just why once, but the why of the why and the why of the why of the why. Deeper and deeper and deeper. Again, this is a shovel down into who you really are. The fourth strategy for breaking free from social conditioning is exposure. Okay, like culture shock is really good for medicating social conditioning. All right, like expose yourself to somebody who sees the world differently than you do. And again, if you're a podcast listener, you're really already like ahead of the curve on this. Like you want to hear what other people have to say. You want to hear what other people think and how other people are seeing the world and how other people handle things. So like continue that, grow that. Like one person that really comes to mind here, and I wasn't planning to tell this story, but like it must need to be a part of this as far as like exposure. There is a man, I believe his name is Daryl. I can't come up with his last name. I want to say Daryl Dixon, but that's a character on The Walking Dead that I've been watching again recently. But anyways, I think his name is Daryl. I'll put a link to his TED Talk in the description so you can check that out if you feel called. But he has over 100 pieces of memorabilia of the Nazi Party, of the KKK, of other white supremacy groups. And what's really interesting about that is that he is a Black man And every single one of those pieces of memorabilia, including like 40 different sets of KKK robes, they were given to him by people who decided that they no longer believed in this ideology because they met Daryl. Daryl spent time with them. Daryl listened to them. He talked to them. He took time to understand them. He questioned them in a non-judgmental, peaceful way. And he built a bridge of rapport and mutual respect with these people who believed something completely different than he did. And after years, in most cases, of these friendships that he cultivated with these people who literally hated him because of the color of his skin. But his premise is like, you can't hate me. You don't even know me. I don't take that personally. You know, he knew that like your hate is your program. And if you knew me, you would have no choice but to love me, because there's nobody on the planet that we wouldn't love if we knew their story. You know, so this guy who collects these pieces of like people giving up hate, you know, and he does that by exposing them to something that contradicts their beliefs. And he does it patiently, and he does it gently and kindly and in a nonviolent way. He leads with listening and understanding. And again, it's a beautiful way to look at life, because there is no right or wrong. And just because somebody believes something doesn't make them a bad person. It doesn't actually mean much about who they really are at all, because most of the world is living in the illusion of their social conditioning. Most people are living out their program. They are continuing their generation, like their family lineage, whatever that programming sounds like. That's just what they're doing. And so he is an example of the power of exposing yourself to things outside of what you already believe, and how that can lead you to a greater level of peace and love in your life. And now at this point, he goes around with like two like former neo-Nazi KKK leaders, and like he's a black dude and they're these like white like skinhead type people, and they give talks on harmony and communication and love and acceptance. And I don't know of many other more beautiful things that go on in this world than that story right there that I just told you, that has to do with exposure. And here's the thing, you know, he's helping to facilitate the exposure of these other people. He's like the example, he's the embodiment of the other, and he walks into their life and he represents everything that contradicts their prejudices and their stereotypes and yada yada yada. And he'll say things like, you know, why do you hate black people? And he's like, well, because, you know, the other guy will be like, well, because they're uneducated and they're a bunch of thieves and crime and blah 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 and like whatever. And he's like, well, that's really interesting because I have a college degree. I've never been arrested. I've actually never been in a fight. Yada yada yada. Like, I mean, he's a walking anti-stereotype. And it is expansive for these people to see, like right in front of them, something that contradicts the program. It is powerful medicine, okay? For bringing your authentic self, for bringing your soul more online, for waking up out of the program, out of the nightmare that the program is, okay? And the reason I paint all of that picture is because you can expose yourself. You can choose to listen and sit down with people who have completely different viewpoints. They practice different religion. They see the world differently. They believe differently about money. They believe differently about politics. They believe differently about parenting. Why not? You can still believe whatever you want to believe at the end of that, but chances are, when you listen to something that's different than what you already believe, the why question will start to work its way down into your consciousness. why do I think like that? They think completely differently, and they seem at peace with that. Like maybe they're happier than I am, or they're more of something that I want to be, and they see the world completely differently. Like maybe I can lean in and ask them a couple questions about that. Like we're talking about, like when we talk about exposure, really what we're getting at is like transcending the ego, getting more into soul, getting more into higher self, building bridges with other souls, right? The ego wants to be right. The soul wants to feel love. So where are you at in your journey? Like when we're mostly in ego, we're going to cling to our program and we're going to demand that it's accurate. Okay, we're going to like insist that it's accurate. And when we're in soul, we're more open, we're more fluid, we're more curious about how can I feel my best? Even if that means admitting that, yeah, that part of my program needs a rewrite. No big, I'll rewrite it and then I'll feel even better. So when you want to feel better, all of the answers are out there. But it does mean that you may not have been correct. You may be wrong in some facets of your belief system. Wrong just meaning like that's not a path to feeling how you want to feel. And that's not a big deal as long as you're willing to change your mind. And the fifth strategy to breaking free from social conditioning is to strengthen your no. Learn to say no. Experiment with saying no. Find something this week to say no to. Okay. And watch, now that I've said that, watch how fast your auto yes wants to pop its head up. Okay. When somebody asks you something and you're like, oh yeah, totally. Like there's no pause. There's no moment of reflection of like, do I actually want to do that thing? Right? There's no room for the program to want what it wants and the authentic self to want what it wants and to feel into which is which and then choose the authentic self. That takes time. That takes space for reflection, a little bit of journaling, like feel your way into it, ask some why questions. And when we auto yes, programming, that's all we're continuing is the program. So strengthening our no means stop it with the auto yes, give yourself space to make an authentic yes or no decision. And basically what we're talking about here is that this is developing resilience against social pressure, right? So-and-so wants me to do X, right? Like one example of this, like that I had an issue with about 5 years ago and I worked my way through it, is I got asked to be on a few different boards, like board of directors, okay, for different groups, organizations, nonprofits, etc. And I was like, yes, definitely. And looking back, my ego, my program equated this invitation with success. And the reason I tell this story is because I actually hated that experience of being on those boards. Like almost none of it was fun. Almost all of it ended up being things that like I would dread. Like some of those, most of the board meetings met like once a month or even less than that. And I still would dread having to spend those 2 hours like doing that thing. So like when we auto yes, we continue the program, we continue on our ingrained beliefs, and when we open up space and we get to feel into why do I want to do that thing? Well, because it would make me successful. Why would that thing make you successful? Like why do you want success? Success is a very externally motivated factor. It's like, well, because then I would have status. Well, because then I could put it on my resume. Why do you want to put it on your resume? So somebody down the line can think certain thoughts about me, right? None of that has anything to do with that sounds fun. I'm excited to learn about this. I'm excited to get to shape that particular organization. I am really passionate about the work that group does. And why are you passionate about it? Well, because I like this, and this. Like, again, why? And all of that can be done thinking. It can be done speaking out loud. It can be done journaling. It could be done with a coach, whatever floats your boat. But to get really clear on your no, otherwise your yes means nothing, right? If yes is the only answer in the book, then it's not even a yes. You don't even have a choice. You're sleepwalking into every single thing you ever do. And that's not right or wrong, but it's certainly not a recipe for a satisfying, fulfilling life. And you're definitely not free. Okay, so we're just matching our values of fulfillment and freedom with the way we're choosing to live our life. And if freedom and fulfillment are valuable in your book, then so is your no. Okay, because every time you say no, you strengthen your yes. This has been such a fun episode. I would love to invite you, if you're interested in having some reflection, having some personalized attention and support for your specific journey where you're at this time. You can visit owningauthenticity.com/activate to book a complimentary one-on-one Zoom session with me where we can talk about what you really want and start to unravel what are the things standing in your way. What are the ingrained beliefs that are keeping your life what it is, where you want something different? And what do you need to shed, right? To start to become aware of what are the things that we need to let go of if we want our life to be what it is that we can picture in our mind. Okay, so you can go to owningauthenticity.com/activate. Until next time, I do hope you are taking such good care of your precious self, and so will I.